Hey, what's up? It's Todd Smith. I am back with another video. In this video, I want to talk about Behringer, specifically the Kobol, and give my kind of first impressions on this synth. I released my first sound demo yesterday, a kind of snappy, fast envelope style bass, which in my opinion, my couple nights of exploring this synth, I think it is definitely a very strong point of this synth. Those type sounds, those snappy envelope basses. Unbelievable. This synth just nails it. I think better than any other Behringer mono synth I have in terms of this size. The things that kind of compete with it might be like the TD3, things that are like simpler in envelopes. It can get kind of snappy. But the envelope TD3, as we know, has one oscillator. This thing has two, so you can create some kind of thicker, faster envelope sounds. One person in the video actually said it reminded them of the TD3, and I think it does have that feel, in terms of the snappy envelope and synth sound. It can't get as squelchy. Obviously, the TD3 squelch is known to be there. You can get some nice resonance in there, but it ain't gonna have that squelch. But it's very, another comment was it reminded them of the 101, another synth that can be very snappy and quick. And I think this is all correct. If you like that, if you want something like that, something that can really create a really snappy bass, this thing is unbelievable. At the same time, it can't get as thick as some of the other Behringers within the price range and build. Like even the Cat that has two oscillators, or even the Pro 1. You can bring in multiple waveforms per oscillator. Where this one, you can only have one active. You can kind of blend two together because there are 7 waveforms per oscillator. You can have your dial in between them and kind of like the neutron, be phasing between the two shapes that you have and kind of blend them together. But that's the closest you're going to get. You can't actually activate fully 2 waves or even 2 waves plus at one time, which means it's not going to be as thick and as juicy as some of the other synths, especially things like the Model D, which have 3 oscillators. But that's not really what this synth needs to be. It's thick enough for what it needs to do. Very simple architecture. There is not a lot going on here in terms of the knobs. It's very limited in knob numbers, which is nice. It's kind of straightforward in its design, which I enjoy. I do feel the LFO, at least from what I've played with so far, isn't my favorite LFO out of all the synths. But the great thing is I can patch any LFO option I want from any of my other Behringer synths into this and give it some more diversity in that field. Again, I do like how you do have 7 waveforms that you can choose from on each oscillator. You have a bunch, and how you can blend between them. I think that's really cool. It really is simple, guys. There isn't a whole lot to talk about on this synth. I need to turn it on this morning and test it again, but I almost guessed the patch is going to be exactly like what I left it last night after I let it warm up, because this synth felt extremely stable in the oscillators. Anyone who owns the Behringer mono synths, they know, especially if you own the Model D, some of them have drift. They really try to replicate the classic architecture, and they kept the drift of the synths. And some drift worse than others. This one felt very stable to me. I did not have to go in and repatch my sounds ever to kind of bring it back into the field the entire night once it was warmed up and I had it patched in. I'm really looking forward to this morning turning it on, letting it warm up and see if it falls back into around the same sound that I had yesterday. That would be really cool because it seemed super stable in the oscillator, which is great. The filter and resonance section is actually really cool because the keyboard control and the ADS control give you some extra control over your filter and resonance. One filter, very simple. You get very simple attack, stain, decay, no release. You honestly can't get any more simple than this. It's just, in terms of synthesis side, it is very, very simple. But it sounds great, super snappy. Once you get a sound to a sweet spot itself within the oscillators, I feel the filter becomes an entire sweet spot. Like you have to find the sweet spot within layering the sounds. But once you layer it right and you got that sound nice, this filter, the entire filter becomes a sweet spot. Like, it's really nice. At first, honestly, I wasn't super impressed with the resonance, but the more I used it, the more I respect it for what it is, and it does the job, and it's good. I think there's definitely, I turned my mind around on that one. At first, that was one part of the synth. I was like, I'm not sure if I really super dig what it's doing, but the more I played with it, the more I enjoyed it, the more I saw the meaning for it being there. Now, again, in terms of routing with your before patching wires, there isn't much here. You literally got a few options in terms of turning your decay off, whether you want your LFO and your ADS to be sent to your VCAs, or you want both of them, which is one or the other. You have your LFO shape, and you have a few mod velocities for your VCOs, and that's it. So simple, so straightforward. So it's cool. And the demo that you heard yesterday was absolutely zero effects, zero processing, zero EQ. There was nothing done to that track to make it sound better than what it was. It was just the Juno X and this wired into Ableton. The Juno X did have effects because the digital synth and the engine, it allows me to add effects, and most of the presets I use, they have effects built on them anyways. But the main thing was showcasing this, and all the sound that you heard, all that bass that you heard was 100% this synth, no effects, no processing, no EQ. So it sounded that good in the mix, just as it is. I've been trying to do that lately with my Behringer like first impressions and actual first sound demos. Just showcase the synth with zero processing, zero effects, so you can get the best idea of what it sounds like out of the box. So if you like the sound from that yesterday, that was 100% raw, 100% unfiltered. I will do some more unfiltered videos with this, the K2, before I start adding effects and really bringing them into a mix and bring them on their own. So yeah, super impressed with it. It did take me a few hours, even though it was simple, to really kind of really get it, I guess. Because at first I was like, oh, this is, I thought it was simple, but not, like, I couldn't find like the sweet spots within the waveforms, I guess, or just how the knobs worked. One really big knob is the VCO Beat 2. I think that was throwing me off for a long time and not making my sounds. If you get this, definitely pay attention to that. It's the third knob on the bottom over here. You want it at 0 because it really starts to fuck with your sounds, and which can be cool because right now I have it set at like 0.5 down to the little slightly panned to the left. But I think when I got it, it was all the way panned down to here or something like that, and I never all the way to 0, and I never messed with it. I was messing with all these other things, and it just sounded off. I couldn't get a sound. I was like, what's going on? I was like, why does it just sound off all the time? And I realized this bad boy right here really can kind of like, it's not a detuner, but it adds like weirdness to the sound. And when you're all the way pan left or right, it just sounds too off in most situations, unless you're trying to get some really strange stuff going on. So I'd recommend starting in at 0 here on this knob, and then start working with everything else, because then everything sounds normal. And once I did that, I was like, oh, okay. Now the synth is sounding good, and like it's sounding like what I would expect from. I was kind of confused at first, and now I start to kind of pan it a little bit, add a little bit of that weird effect into there. But if you're playing with this thing and you just got it and it sounds kind of off to you, and you're like, well, why does it just not sound that good? Like, you know, it sounds okay, but like a little weird. Definitely check this knob, see where you're at. Once I got that dialed in, that was like an hour and a half into it. It completely changed the synth around, and massively, total 180. So, my first impressions of it, in terms of build design, it's very Behringer. Feels very much like any Behringer of this field. I would say the knobs feel a little more plasticky than some of the other Behringer knobs that you get. But very sturdy. I feel that the when I turn the knobs and I play with the filter, the resonance, everything has a lot of reaction. There's not a lot of dead space where it's not doing anything. Very easy for me to, again, use the tuners and tuner things in and for them to stay tuned. Very simple, snappy, very snappy bass on a great price tag. It's an absolute killer. This thing will definitely be used in a lot of my tracks, pretty much all of them at this point, I'm pretty sure. Like, this thing will be that snappy bass monster that, like, it's gonna be my go-to in with my, you know, kind of industrial side, the more EBM side. This thing is boss. I mean, I think it's more direct and better than the Pro 1 in that sense. And a lot of people like the Pro 1 for its snappy envelopes, but the Pro 1 has a lot more involved in it, and I think it takes a lot more work to get it there. And I'd argue this gets you there faster and might even do it better. So it's really, yeah, I'm thinking it's definitely this is a keeper. Glad I got it. I hope my first impression on it helps you decide if it was right for you or if it's on the way. Gets you even more excited for it. There it is, first impression. Kobol. Expect to see more videos on it in the future. Stay positive, stay creative, support each other, and peace.